Most Christians claim to know the story of Noah's Ark. Many even claim that this story is literally true. The story begins when God notices that the humans that he created have become extremely wicked. Specifically, God appears to object to their violence, saying, "I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them." True to his word, Yahweh took immediate action, hoping that we could learn from his glorious example how best to live in peace and non-violence as he always intended. The results were as advertised. With the exception of Noah and his band of family and animals on the ark, every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out, including without limitation every single mother with her born or unborn fetus, a fact that many of the religiously inspired anti-abortion fanatics would do well to recognize. To borrow words from Job, what difference does it make? God destroys the innocent along with the guilty. When a good person dies a sudden death, God sits back and laughs. After committing the worst genocide in the history of the planet Earth, God made a promise that most Christians are familiar with. God promised never again to kill everything alive with a flood. What most Christians do not appear to realize is that this is actually the third promise that God makes to Noah following the flood. The first two can be found in Genesis 8:21. "Never again will I punish the earth for the sinful things its people do. All of them have evil thoughts from the time they are young, but I will never destroy everything that breathes as I did this time." Or as the New International Version renders it, "Never again will I curse the ground because of man, even though every inclination of his heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures, as I have done." There is no mention of flood in this passage. Grouping the third promise into the second promise, we can see that God has essentially made two promises to Noah on which we can evaluate his ability to keep his word. The first promise is to never again punish the earth for the sinful things its people do. The second promise is to never destroy all living creatures. Consider the first promise. The Lord promises not to bring any more natural disasters against the earth to punish the earth or its people, even though its people are often evil.
Called brother, why must you call down another blow?
It is well known that following this promise, or at least following the flood of Noah, Yahweh pounded the Egyptians into submission with massive plagues. He did the same to Sodom and Gomorrah. Even though these cities may have been filled with evil people, in the opinion of Yahweh, he promised never again to punish the earth for the things their people do. Yet he broke this promise. Yahweh's second promise is even more problematic. The God promises never again to kill every living thing. Yet anyone familiar with the Bible's end times prophecies knows that this is a promise that won't be kept. 2 Peter 3:10 sums it best. "The day of the Lord's return will surprise us like a thief. The heat will melt the whole universe. Everything will be destroyed." And amazingly, we can even find this prophecy in the Gospel of Matthew. When the Son of Man appears, things will be just as they were when Noah lived. They didn't know anything was happening until the flood came and swept them all away. That is how it will be when the Son of Man appears. 2 men will be in the same field, but only one will be taken. The other will be left. Revelation's horrible prophecies are bad enough on their own, But perhaps the worst part about them is that they stand in stark violation to God's promise to Noah. God promised never again to kill all living things. He made this promise knowing that all things are evil, and knowing that he had just performed a great judgment on all things. Yet still he violates his own promise. Yahweh makes many, many more promises throughout the course of Scripture. He even promises to grant eternal paradise to everyone who grants him their worship. Yet we have seen that Yahweh is not even able to keep promises on matters of grave significance, namely, the end of the world. If Yahweh cannot even keep his word on issues of grave significance, why is it that billions of people around this world trust Yahweh with their eternal fate?